is behavioral science and its application. And let me now take this opportunity to introduce our moderator and the panelists. The first, our first panelist is Mr. Jatinder Singh, Chief Marketing Officer, Mahindra Manulife Mutual Fund. I would request all of you to please give it up for Mr. Jatinder Singh here on the stage. Moving on, I would take this opportunity to invite Mr. Anunaya Kumar, President, Sales and Distribution, IIFL, Wealth and Asset Management. I would request sir as well to kindly join us on the stage. Next, I would request Mr. Mahmood Basha, Head, Retail and International Business, Baroda BNP Paribas Asset Management Company, to please join us on the stage. And our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Pratyush Pillai, Chief Behavior Design Officer, Tinker Labs, to kindly join us on the stage. And now, ladies and gentlemen, calling our moderator for this session, I would like to invite Mr. Aloke, Vohra, Growth Head, Probus Insurance Broker Private Limited, to kindly join us on the stage. Let us welcome him as well with a big round of applause. Mr. Aloke, as I have observed, is filled with energy, and I'm looking forward to how he is going to take this session forward, and looking forward to you moderating this session. Alok ji, over to you.
Okay, all right. Can I have a mic?
Hello.
Okay, all right. Loud and clear? Awesome. Topic which is very close to my heart and everybody's heart is what I hear from a lot of people this morning. And दो तीन जन उठकर आए कि हम आपको सुनने आए हैं पूना से, तो मुझे उनको क्लैरिफाई करना पड़ा कि बिहेवियरल साइंस मेरा एक्सपर्टीज या डोमेन वाला टॉपिक नहीं है, मैं खुद यहाँ पे सीखने आया हूँ. तो मैं यहाँ पे एक क्यूरियस इन्वेस्टर या क्यूरियस डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर का रिप्रेजेंटेटिव बन के मॉडरेट कर रहा हूँ. एक्सपर्ट्स यहाँ पर है मेरे लेफ्ट और राइट में. सो ऑन दैट नोट लेट मी लाइक जस्ट किक दिस पैनल डिस्कशन ऑफ. सो यू नो, बिहेव एक ऐसा वर्ड है, एक ऐसा शब्द है जो मैं स्कूल के टाइम से सुनते आया हूँ. लाइक यू नो, स्कूल में जाता था तो लोग कहते थे, टीचर कहती थी, यार आलोक बिहेव कर, यार क्या कर रहा है ये, ठीक से पढ़ाई कर. घर पे लाइक मम्मी और पापा एंड एवरीबडी वुड से कि लाइक आलोक, यू नो, मेहमान आने वाले हैं, ठीक से बिहेव करना. एंड देन इन ऑफिस स्पेस ऑल्सो लाइक यू नो, समवेयर और द अदर आई विल गेट अ मेमो फ्रॉम एचआर कि यार तू बड़ी शैतानी करता है, काम वाम नहीं करता है. सो यू नो, I want to like on that note, I just want to like sort of also introduce our panelists, which you know, on left hand side is JP, Anunaya, we have Mr. Basha and Pratyush. Pratyush is the Chief Behavior Design Officer or the so-called CBDO. Baki hamare industry ke designations are very common, but Pratyush, something which like is very intriguing and you know, a topic of curiosity. ये CBDO होता क्या है यार? What is a Chief Behavior Design Officer? हमने तो नहीं सुना कभी.
So it's a fairly new one. Hello everyone, great to be here. So it's a fairly new designation. Chief and Officer को आप छोड़ सकते हो उसमें. But behavior design जो है, it's basically talking about humans in the real world and how humans actually behave. So for a lot of times we've looked at humans as these idealists or very rational beings, almost like, you know, a robo from Star Wars who, if they know what the right thing to do is, they will behave that way. You know, if they know smoking is bad, they will stop smoking. If they know you shouldn't drink and drive, you will not drink and drive. But the way we really work in the real world, the way humans really work, is what behavior design really empathizes with. We are all irrational human beings, and that's by design. And what behavior design tries to do is to build products or services that cater to that real human being.
Thank you, Pratyush. I've also heard, like, you know, in a lot of forums and through a lot of research that it's very difficult to change human behavior. So, I mean, आप फिर भी कोशिश किए जा रहे हो?
So it's a persistent thing, which is why people like me have jobs. But
some hope. Our industry has hope.
We have some hope. But the reason for it to be so hard is the way our brains are designed, right? We have the neocortex part of the brain, which is called system 2, which is the front part of our brain responsible for very reflective thinking, very long and kind of thought through speech, and a lot of rational thinking happens in that front part of the brain. But the surprising discovery is that that's only 5% of our decisions and actions. 95% of everything we do, including why my left hand is probably moving as I speak, is all controlled by that system 1 brain, which is 95% of our day-to-day lives. Right? So imagine your whole day today. 95% of that day, you will do things that you even don't kind of recognize, you don't know why you did what you did. And only 5% is what you will recognize as this is what I did today. Right? So with that understanding, if you ask somebody why they do something, why don't you invest regularly, why don't you follow through on your SIPs, they will never know the answer, because it's the subconscious processing that really is responsible for the lack of behavior or the kind of prevalence of the wrong behavior. Right? So which is why it's hard, but it's also extremely interesting to empathize with that 95% and then design systems for that.
Very interesting. I'll come to that systems, and I've heard of system 1, system 2 and how it works in a while. But on that note, let me move to JP. JP, mutual fund sahi hai as a campaign has been, I think, on in the industry since almost a decade now. 10 saal ho gaye, 6-7 saal ho gaye approx. So to what extent do you think has this campaign not only pushed the industry from a marketing perspective, but also been instrumental on a behavior change front? What do you think?
आलोक, प्रत्युष ने जो बात बोली, आपने जो प्रश्न डाला, तो जरा सी मैं वहीं से कड़ी उठाता हूँ. देखिए, जब हम बचपन में आपने बोला ना, तो हमारे घर में भी एक बिहेवियर ऑफिसर होता था, और अगर मम्मी से नहीं संभला तो बोलते शाम को आएगा घर, तब हम दिखा दूंगी मैं. राइट? तो और स्कूल में जिसके हाथ में छड़ी थी तो बिहेवियर ऑफिसर था. अब ये कुछ भी हो, बिहेवियर तो उन्होंने ठीक कहा, 95% तो मेरा फिक्स हो गया. कहीं मैं कोशिश भी करूं, क्लासेस अटेंड करूं, कोई लाइव क्लासेस जाऊं, तो भी थोड़े से अवेयरनेस बढ़ जाएगी, शायद बिहेवियर बहुत बदलेगा नहीं. और इसमें कुछ सही गलत नहीं है, क्योंकि आलोक ने एक बहुत अच्छा वर्ड यूज़ किया, इरेशनल. राइट? अगर ह्यूमन बीइंग इरेशनल नहीं होता ना, तो जो आज हम देखते हैं ना अपने आसपास की ज़िंदगी, राइट, हमारी नहीं होती. हम भी उसी तरह जंगलों में रह रहे होते, जानवरों की तरह. हम भी जानवर ही हैं एक तरह से, लेकिन इस इरेशनैलिटी के लिए ही हम आज की अपने जो ह्यूमन बीइंग ने ज़िंदगी बनाई, इसलिए बनाई है कि कभी आगे बढ़े तो औजार बना लिए, गाड़ियाँ बना ली, रॉकेट बना लिए, सैटेलाइट बना लिए. सिमिलरली हमारी जगत में, हमारे निवेश के जगत में भी ये वैलिड है, क्योंकि अगर इरेशनैलिटी नहीं है कि किसी को, शेर को जाके किसी ने बोला नहीं तू ये खाना जो मारा ना, ये डियर, इसको 20 साल बाद खाना. आप बोल रहे हो ना अपने निवेशक को कि जो तू कमा रहा है बचा पैसे को, क्योंकि जब तू बूढ़ा हो जाएगा या तेरी लाइफ की गोल से पूरे करने हैं ना. ये रैशनल बिहेवियर है. अब अच्छा खराब बताइए, इसमें खराब क्या है? सो ये इसलिए इसमें मैं इसको पॉजिटिव भी लेता हूँ और नेगेटिव भी हो सकता है कि अब खाना ही बंद कर लो, सिर्फ इन्वेस्टमेंट ही करो, मत खाओ, वो भी नहीं होगा. और आपने जो बात बोली, आपने कड़ी बोली, यहीं से वहाँ आता है म्यूचुअल फंड सही है. राइट? कुछ लोग कह सकते हैं म्यूचुअल फंड सही क्या, हंसी मजाक पे चलता है, आप जाओगे कहीं पे सोशल मीडिया में, क्या ये सही है, लोग पूछ लेते हैं. लेकिन देखिए, अल्टीमेटली ये टैगलाइन है, और टैगलाइन के पीछे बहुत सोच है, बहुत एक्सपीरियंस है, उसके अंदर एक तजुर्बा है इतने सालों का. मैं इतनी एश्योरिटी से कह सकता हूँ कि सबसे ट्रांसपेरेंट इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रोडक्ट म्यूचुअल फंड है. राइट? और यहाँ जितने लोग बैठे हैं या मेरे बात जो सुनेंगे कहीं भी, ये हम उस कॉन्फिडेंस से हम बेचते हैं. राइट? अब उसके बाद जब इन्वेस्ट, तो ये निवेशक के टच करने की बात है कि एक कड़ी के साथ में, एक टैगलाइन के साथ में कोई बोल हमने ले लिया, उसके साथ टच करने की बात है. एंड हमको कॉन्फिडेंस है कि हम कैसे मैनेज करते हैं, पीछे रेगुलेशन जो है, that is all in interest of investor, and then we come in as a component facilitating all that.
Very true.
तो हाँ,
Very
मैं तो कहूँगा कि हाँ, म्यूचुअल फंड सही है उसके अंदर, और इसको बेहतर बनाते रहेंगे हम.
Excellent. Anunaya, on that front, only one of the investor traits which at least I have seen since I was in ICICI in 2001, 20-21 साल हो गए, is that वो investor हमेशा वो rear view mirror में देखकर गाड़ी चलाने की कोशिश करता है, right? And to what extent do you think has that changed, or for that matter, let me come 2 steps back and ask that question, वो change करने की जरूरत भी है क्या? What do you think?
Thanks, Alok. A very warm welcome to the entire audience. You know what we were talking about, a consumer investor behavior and all, but what determines behavior? You know what determines behavior is an experience. हमारा experience क्या रहा है, वो बताता है हमारे behavior क्या हो सकता है और क्या होना चाहिए. But the beauty is, as an investor, we have been through this experience of looking into the rearview mirror and trying to move forward and have always met with an accident, but we haven't learned it. Now, what am I trying to say over here? And I'll spend a minute on that to bring some numbers to make my statement much more qualifying. If I look at the market on the last 20 to 23 odd years have traded at a price to book of a 3.1 being the average. 3.1 average पे market price to book पे trade करता रहा है अगर हम पिछले 22 साल जाते हैं तो. Let's add one standard deviation positive, one standard deviation negative. What am I trying to say? Market has demonstrated its entire behavior between a price to book of a 2 and a 4. So every time market touches closer to 4, it gives you an indication, and if you would have seen it, the returns anybody who gets into the market at a price to book of a 4 over next 5 years gets a compounded of 4. But if you are able to get market at the lower end, which is the recently that we had seen, which was in 2020, you know, the next 5 years compounding works out to be 40%. And the beauty is, the market only spends 10% at the higher end, 5% at the lower end. So what is market doing? It is actually spending 85% of its time delivering a return of 11 to 12%, which is what we all say. When we go into the market, what do we say to the client? Sir, equity बहुत अच्छा investment कर सकते हैं, 5 साल का time दीजिए, 12% return मिलेगा आपको. That's what we say. We say this why? Because actually market spends 85% of time delivering that. Now this is one pattern that we have seen. Now let's look at the behavior. The behavior is, at a price to book of a 2, your 1 year backward returns are negative. And because your last 1 year return was negative, the flows had also been negative. The people aren't giving money at a price to book of a 2. Why? Because they are looking to rear view mirror. When the price to book from a 2 to 3 comes in, your 1 year return comes to say around 7 to 8%. And your flows goes to around 10 odd %. Now look, see the patterns, how it is building up now. Between 3 and a 4, your 1 year previous return looks like 13 to 18%, and your flows starts getting to 45 to 50%. And the best is, beyond 4 price to book, when your 1 year return is actually 35 to 40 odd %, contrary to your zero inflows, the inflows are still 10%. And if I look at successively, as I mentioned, at a 2 price to book, you were actually getting 40%. And a price of book of a 4, you're getting only 4%. But the flows are coming just the opposite. So this is exactly the behavior which is what is holding back many investors. And Sir Warren Buffett, has set 2 rules, which is very interesting one. One is that never lose money, and second is don't forget the rule number 1. And that's important, which is where we have to look at it. And that's where the role of you all people, in terms of handholding, clients' expectations, have a larger role to play.
Excellent. Thank you, Anunaya. So the left-hand side of me, when I was listening to Anunaya, this side of the brain was absolutely understanding, given I have some understanding of PE, PB and all. But as I said, right-hand side is a representative of a common man, an investor. Usse kuch palle nahi pada. My question to Pratyush here is, Pratyush, as an outsider, as a neutral third party, hearing us, what do you interpret, like, क्या करना चाहिए हमें? ये बात सही कर रहे हैं हम, पर वहाँ तक नहीं पहुँच रही है बात. तो क्या विचार है आपके?
And absolutely, and great points made by all the panelists. So, like, I've had the luxury of being around a lot of new investors, people just entering the mutual fund market. My sister, my wife, friends at office and stuff like that. Everybody trying to get into the market. And while, there is some very clear direction like Sir gave just now, what happens is the vast amount of information for this investor becomes super confusing. And there's something called choice overload, decision fatigue. All these are aspects.
Analysis paralysis.
Analysis
ये सब चीजें सुना है
paralysis.
मैंने.
Absolutely. So with so many things, and if you walk through the journey an investor is making, right? So first I have to decide to invest. Now when I'm choosing to invest, I have to choose between categories. I have stocks, I have a small case option, I might have mutual funds, and so many other areas to invest in. I look at the campaign mutual funds sahi hai, and I say, okay, this is what I need to get into. I choose mutual funds. Within that, again, there are so many different categories of mutual funds. Within each category, there are so many different companies that I can choose from, right? Looking at different ratios, expense ratio, exit load, so many different parameters that even these apps like Grow and Upstocks are really throwing at the investor. But what is the investor receiving is what I think is a slight blind spot. Especially, the more expertise you have in an industry, which everybody in this room, except for me, probably knows, right? So all of y'all are experts on mutual funds and investments. I'm a complete outsider. But the real world is closer to my understanding of the market, right? They're not as experts as you are. They don't have the experience that you have. And the blind spots that you all may have, because you all are experts, you all are habituated to seeing the same numbers and data time and time again. And I was looking at some of the Excel sheets, the way you all go through so many rounds of, phrases and jargons and terms is very easy. It comes naturally to you all. It's a second language for you all. To a new investor, it's absolutely alien territory. Right?
So thank you. So we'll come back and understand what more needs to be done. But एक चीज ध्यान में आ रही है, which I have been reading in newspapers for a while now, and my next question is to Basha, is that we are hearing and talking about AI and ML and technology's role in the space of behavioral science. And I see you you were carrying a laptop bag. मुझे लग रहा है उसमें कुछ technology का सामान ही था. So you being an expert on that subject, Basha, can you throw some light क्या हो रहा है ये technology और behavioral science की दुनिया में?
Thank you, FIFA and Empower Education for having me here. It's a great question, Aloke. If we go back and understand what behavioral science is, it is basically a science which is combining psychology and economics to understand or study the pattern in decision making of an investor. Why is somebody buying? Why is somebody selling? And factors that are influencing such decision, that is what factors are going in, and how as a business can benefit from understanding such patterns. Traditionally, behavioral science is carried out manually. So there are limitations on number of peoples and observations you can have. What technology is empowering those who are in this field of behavioral science is it giving a power to observe behavior of many investors. So if you manually do it, you may be tracking 100 investors' behavior, but with the use of technology, you can potentially track 100,000 investors and millions of decisions they make, sell, buy, etc. Now comes the role of AI and ML. What does that do for people like us, especially our colleagues sitting here as an entrepreneurs, is imagine you as an entrepreneur. The previous speaker spoke about Amrit Kal for India. So there are enough and more opportunities for you. But you have a limited resource, which is time. You don't have unlimited time to pursue every opportunity that is in front of you. Imagine you have a power with the help of a technology to predict which of those 100 clients you are following will likely to invest, and if he or she is investing, how long they are expected to stay invested, what is the profitability of that customer or an investor. So wouldn't it help you in a business as an entrepreneur? Imagine you have a huge potential client base of investors who you can pursue, but you can segment them into basis certain scientific, taking scientific variables into account, into most profitable, challenging, promising segment. And then you decide, okay, I want to chase these two segments and maybe leave out one for whatever reasons. And you as an entrepreneur want to forecast your revenues, sales. So you have the power to do that under certain market condition. If market condition remain what it is, okay, this will be my gross sales and this will be my revenues. If market goes up, this will be my
some form of predictive analysis.
And you also go another extent, say, okay, if I do a marketing intervention, like I do 2 investor meetings, or I send an email, so what would be the impact of that on business? Finally, recommending an appropriate product bases the investor behavior at a market conditions. We end up going what we think is right, but we don't know that appeal to our investor behavior or not. But if you have that foresight and you can understand, won't it help you as an entrepreneur? And that is what AI and ML brings to the table. One raw material for AI and ML to work efficiently is data. We as a part of a BFSI industry have to be feel extremely good about the fact that we have large amount of data available, but we are not making that much use of the data, whereas consumer tech companies are making best use of that data. I think this is where I think the AI, ML and technologies will help empower everyone in the ecosystem, especially the MFDs, to unlock the potential which is there ahead of us.
And Basha, is this like something which we are going to see by 2025, 28, 33, or is it already happening? That is the question on everybody's mind.
To some extent, it's already happening. For example, likes of banks have now building, understand the behavior of their consumers and started deciding on the intervention. For us, I think this is my recommendation earlier also. Since we have a smaller number of investors, if it can be done at an aggregate level, let's say FIFA takes up this and does analytics for the entire group, or Amphi does it, then the efficiency levels will go up substantially. If we do it at an individual levels with 1,000, 2,000 customer-based behavior, maybe accuracy levels may not be that high. But if you do it at an aggregate level, data confidentiality can be ensured in all these ML and AI models. But if you do it at aggregate level, the efficiency levels will go up. You can predict a lot better. You can segment clients a lot better. You can also forecast more efficiently and then build a recommendation engine.
Very interesting. Thank you so much, Basha, for that insight. Let me change tracks and sort of ask a question which somebody was in the morning, you know, on over tea, like asking me, कि ये behavior change किसकी जिम्मेदारी है? ये खाली investor को हम कहते हैं, आप behave करो, redeem मत करो, वगैरह वगैरह, या फिर there is this element in between, the bridge in between, right? Which is could be a sales RM or an advisor or an MFD. So my question to the forum, like, you know, anybody can take it up, is to what extent is it important that the intermediary also का उनका behavior भी important है? Okay, is it only like an investor behavior that we are focused on? Behavior किसका, to simplify?
Actually, प्रत्युष ने एक आंसर दे दिया कि अगर हम जो शब्दांजलि हमारी यूज हो रही है, अगर इन्वेस्टर समझ नहीं रहा है, तो वो उसको फिर हैंड होल्डिंग का ऑटोमेटिकली जरूरत है. तो सेम क्वेश्चन गोज टू अस आल्सो. सेम द बिहेवियर इज, वी आर आल्सो रिस्पांसिबल फॉर दैट बिहेवियर. तो जैसे अनन्या ने बात की कि अगर मार्केट महंगी लग रही है, हम रियर या फिर हम रियर मिरर के ऊपर देख के इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, तो सेम थिंग इज एप्लीकेबल टू अस एज एडवाइजर्स, टू अस एज मैन्युफैक्चरर्स. So it is the responsibility of everyone in the chain. And but you know, can I reach out to those 3-4 crore unique investors suddenly, or everybody? Can we reach out और उनको जाके ये साइंस की बारे बात करें? So दो चीजें हैं मेरे ख्याल से. One, we can reach out to you better. आप बेहतर समझते हो, ये आपका बिजनेस पार्ट है, हमारा बिजनेस पार्ट है. and we can utilize it. And secondly, अगर हम उसको utilize कर रहे हैं and हम अपना control कर ले इस बात पे, control right word नहीं है, if we become aware और हम जागरूक हो जाएं इस बात पे, तो automatically जो हम advice दे रहे हैं, when we are having conversation with our investors in very challenging environments, कि market बहुत high है, market नीचे है, पैसा लगाना नहीं लगाना, COVID हो गया, market गिर के निकालना, you know, when the investor is behaving in a very challenging environment, उस time if we are in control, we will be more able to automatically हम अपने investors को control कर सकते हैं to a level. आप बोलोगे नहीं, हाँ ये debate चलती रहेगी, but मेरे हिसाब से it is better that those we as an industry first take that responsibility, and then you know investors के लिए अगर आप पूछो तो बहुत difficult है वो number या उस scale तक पहुँचना.
बिल्कुल.
I'll rather put it in a little different way. Let's take an example. We have a medical emergency. घर में किसी तबीयत खराब हो जाती है. What do? We do our best to find the best doctor who is available. Fair? आपने डॉक्टर देख लिया, पहुंच गए. Now what do we do the next? Do you tell the doctor, sir, I think CT scan आपको कर लेना चाहिए मेरे को. Doctor said sonography. No, sonography नहीं said CT scan is the best way to deal with my case. Why don't you do it? No, we don't. Why? Because we trust the doctor. Why? Because we know he is the man who is going to give me the best possible answer to my challenge. Now let's get back to our thing. The first thing that we all need to do, which is over there or over here, and I'm talking about as a segment, manufacturer or a distributor, intermediary, is to refrain talking the language that investor wants to listen.
थोड़ा strict होना पड़ेगा.
Because if he knows what is good for him, then he doesn't need us. And when it comes to doing it, you will actually have to pull the guy out of looking into the rearview mirror and say to him, sir, your investments are not to make the short-term goals. Your investments are there to fulfill the long-term goals. And the moment we start, and I'll tell you it's not easy, because I personally have spent more than a decade being an advisor working for Citibank, RBS and NAB and Amro. And I know when we say the right language, someone else will say the language which a client wants to hear, and the client will go away. But it's again very easy to manage that piece as well. I personally done it. Please maintain the paper portfolio for those set of clients. Tell them, sir, you don't listen to me, please go to Mr. Aloke. He's the best advisor as per you. Do it with him. This is a paper portfolio I'll keep maintaining with you.
Excellent.
Get it reviewed every 6 months. And see to it, does it work or not.
How many of us do it over here? Most of us? Intend to in some way or the other? Excellent. Basha, you wanted to make a point.
Pratyush talk about how complex it is to understand mutual fund, and see, in the marketing world, there are a couple of trends that are emerging now. One, text is replacing, image is replacing text. Videos are becoming a lot more effective way of communication. So if you look at most of us as an industry, be it manufacturers or advisors, all our communication is a lot more heavy on text. I think if we can follow that what is happening in the world, marketing world, and we can pick up some learning from there, I think if we can convert into a simple language and more images in our communication and videos, short videos are becoming a lot more popular. I was told that now the average attention span has come down over a period of time, is not more than 20 seconds. So that's where reels are becoming a lot more popular than YouTube videos.
Very true.
So I think if we as a community will start thinking about it, like Anunaya said, that we link it to goals, but how do we communicate? Eventually you have to, either it has to be verbal or an email or this one. Can we start picking up cues from what is happening in the rest of the world?
Shortening the message, making it crisper.
Crisper, and it should be soothing to the eye. When you look at our communication, even on my own product notes, etc., too much text, too complex charts, etc., an average investor won't understand
Thank
that.
you for being honest, Basha.
Thank you.
At times it just seems like there are two AMC hoardings like talking to each other. नीचे से गाड़ियां जा रही है पर किसी को समझ में ही नहीं आ रहा क्या हो रहा है. Pratyush, from some other industry, you have worked across so many industries, and I know that you had been honored by the Melinda Gates Foundation for a very, very critical project that was to bring about the sexual behavior shift in the country, in the teenagers. Anything like which comes to your mind which can be applied by the mutual fund industry, anybody, us, distributors, investors?
Absolutely, Alok. So coming back to your question of what is the role of the intermediary, like you said, how important is that? So the premise of behavior science is where there's a human, there will be biases, right? So we are saying the investors are biased and things like that. If we just kind of get into your shoes for a minute here, right? There will be biases even in the way we deal with customers, right? One key thing will be stereotyping. This person is very risk averse. This person is risk seeking. This person is, X type of person, Y type of person. And that's a classical bias that we operate with to make life easier for us, right? But the fact of the matter is, if we really empathize with the investor, every sum of money will mean a different thing for them. There's a principle called mental accounting, right? So some amount of money I've received as a Diwali bonus. What does that money mean to me as an investor? Some amount of money is just my regular salary that I get on a month-to-month basis. That may have a different meaning. So if we're able to understand what the investor really needs, what does that money mean to him or her, what is it that they want that to do for them, that's the role, and it's a very, very critical role, right? The investor himself or herself is not going to be able to see all of this. That's a blind spot for them. But your role is to really understand, okay, I personally am risk seeking. That doesn't mean my investor will be the same, but I need to understand what does this sum of money mean to him or her and suggest the right thing for them in that moment, right? So there's a classical example of how the ATMs were launched all across the country, and we expected everyone to just kind of stop going to the bank tellers and go to the ATM and take out the money. The critical element in making that a huge success was actually the security guard who would stand and instruct people. So he would go with him or her and tell them, abhi card daliye, enter your PIN, paise aayenge, you'll get a receipt, do you want to see your balance on screen? And that person was the critical factor in getting ATMs to where they are today. Right?
Behavior shift.
The behavior shift. And that's the role that we need to play as the intermediary, to really understand the investor, simplify things for them, like Basha sir said. And of course, we have the expertise of, the industry stalwarts. We know all these terminologies and jargons. We have to curate the best thing for our investor in that particular moment.
Very well put, Pratyush. On that note, I'm seeing like there is some curiosity and anxiety in the audience. Maybe you may also want to ask questions to the stalwarts. Anybody who has a question at this juncture and you want to throw it at us, please. Yeah, please. You're loud enough. Huh. True. फ्रस्ट्रेशन आ जाता है कि यार ये तो नहीं निकालने ही वाला है पैसा यार जितना भी कुछ हो जाए. हाँ. So what does one do in this extreme situation?
Absolutely. So the key to behavior change is to acknowledge existing behavior. Right? It's not to start saying that this is the ideal thing. Why don't you want to reach there? आपको मतलब motivation है ही नहीं तो you're a hopeless case, basically. So that's usually, we all get very frustrated when trying to change behavior. But one trick that Dr. B.J. Fogg, he's the head of Stanford's Behavior Design Lab, and what he says is if you get somebody to do something very, very small, right? So if you have ₹1,00,000, I'm not asking you to put ₹1,00,000 into something that I've recommended for you, but start with even ₹500, as low as that. Start with this small amount, and we'll see how it goes in the next 6 months. So what we've realized is motivation is almost inconquerable. You cannot motivate somebody for too long, and if they're demotivated, you cannot kind of pull them back up. So the other way to enter and change behavior is really make things really easy, small and bite-sized for them. And maybe that as an attempt in the work we've done, for example, for Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, simplifying behavior is a big, big hack to get behavior change to at least start off.
Well, adding to what he has said, My take is time is the best answer that can give. Yes, I think this is very, very typical behavior that you would notice from an investor, which is that he always carries the belief that he knows more than you. And the moment that, to break that belief is not easy. Now, how can that be done? It can only be done by demonstrating it. Now, how would you demonstrate today for something that can happen in future? And that's exactly what I started off saying, that if you continue holding up with your perseverance, attempt to make what you really wanted to say, if not in a real way, in a paper way, I can tell you that guy is going to marry you and will start eating through your hands. Because then he starts seeing value. Unfortunately, in India, what is the problem? India, the biggest problem is we don't underwrite advisory. We only give advisory. We don't share, we don't part into losses. We only show the greed. That behavior to break is not something that you and me can do ourselves. That needs to be done at a different level. But what you and me can do is that we can build trust. If not in a real form, it can be done in a paper form. Believe you me, the transition from paper to real will not take too long.
Very interesting. मैं सिर्फ आपके सुख में आपका साथ नहीं खड़ा रहूंगा, दुख में भी खड़ा रहूंगा. I think कबीर का एक बहुत famous दोहा भी है. Very interesting. Any other questions for the stalwarts, for the panelists? Yes, sir. बहुत अच्छा सवाल है सर, थैंक यू.
हाँ, सो प्रत्युष तू बाद में आना, मैं इनका कुछ और साथ देता हूँ, शायद आपको क्वेश्चन डालता हूँ मैं, राइट. तो भाई सर आपकी खाली बात नहीं है, मैं अपने ऊपर भी ले रहा हूँ. इंडस्ट्री के भी यही बिहेवियर था कि मार्केट और नीचे जाएगी. एडवाइजर भी घबराया हुआ था कि क्योंकि वो हम ही को सुन रहा होगा कि और नीचे जाएगी. सिर्फ बात इन्वेस्टर की नहीं है, इन्वेस्टर तो लास्ट कड़ी है उसके अंदर. तो काफ़ी फंड मैनेजर भी ये सोच रहे होंगे उस टाइम कि शायद मार्केट और नीचे जाएगी, और व्यू उसके अंदर. और जो आप बात कर रहे हो ना, सिर्फ कोविड की बात नहीं है, आज भी लोग 18,000 कैसे हो गई, ये तो वापस 8 आनी चाहिए. वो आज भी ऊपर है. तो ये क्वेश्चन जो है, सो देखिए ऐसा है, ये ना समय समय पे आते रहेगा. ये ऐसे नहीं है कि कोविड की बात है. मैंने तो मार्केट 1990 से देखी है. सो बट अच्छी बात, इंपॉर्टेंट बात क्या है कि उनका प्रश्न और आपका प्रश्न मैं दोनों लेके एक साथ इसका जवाब दे रहा हूँ. आज 150 लोग यहाँ बैठे हैं, हम लोग हम कन्वर्सेशन कर रहे हैं. दिस इज अ बिग अचीवमेंट because you are becoming aware that you need to do something when it's not about market being down. Opposite कर लीजिए, when markets are very about valuation, there's no number in this. तब वो निकलना नहीं चाहेगा. तो आपके ऊपर प्रश्न आता है, मेरे ऊपर आता है, हम क्या करना चाहेंगे, राइट. तो टाइम टू टाइम ये वेरी होते रहेगी. द इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज, मैं ये मानता हूँ हम टेबल के ऊपर बैठ के रख के ये बात कर रहे हैं, तो स्टिंक इज आउट, द फिश की स्टिंक हम दूर कर रहे हैं. मतलब अगर कोई बदबू है किसी चीज़ के, नेगेटिव है, हम दूर कर रहे हैं. सो हम जो मैंने पहले बात बोली, मैं वापस रिपीट कर रहा हूँ, वी कैन रीच आउट टू एन नंबर, राइट. और हर इन्वेस्टर यूनिक है, कंप्लीट है अपने आप के अंदर, एंड वी हैव टू रीएडजस्ट टू दैट. तो इसमें कोई परफेक्ट आंसर नहीं है. और आपके प्रश्न में एक हाइंडसाइट बायस है, यानी कि भूतकाल पक्षपात है कि हो चुका तो मेरे लिए बहुत इजी है बोलना. तो मैं अगर तो थोड़ी देर पहले जब आशीष सोमैया जी बोल रहे थे, तो 10 साल की व्यू, वो तो 3-4 साल पहले हमने पीफा के वहाँ प्रेजेंटेशन के अंदर आके हमने 10 साल की व्यू, उस टाइम 2030 की बात हम देख आ गए थे. लेकिन ये सारी चीज़ें होती रहेगी. हम सबको कहते हैं कि अल्टीमेटली करेक्शंस होंगे, मार्केट ऊपर भी जाएगी, बट तो एक बहुत बड़ा डिफरेंस है. सारी नॉलेज, सारी स्टैटिस्टिक्स, सारे इंफॉर्मेशन, सारे नंबर अवेलेबल हैं. तो ऐसा क्यों कि कुछ इन्वेस्टर ज्यादा पैसा बनाते हैं, बाकी नहीं बनाते. बिहेवियर जब कुछ
and our speakers who are going to join us. Thank you.
So,
Kindly get seated. We are about to start with our next panel discussion, so I would once again request everyone to please get seated.
Please, I request everyone to please come fast. Call all your friends. Our CEOs are waiting. Our dignitaries are waiting. Please. And once again, thank you very much, my very dear friend Anupama Munagekar, Mr. Mayur Shah, Rajiv Kumar, for joining. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you so much. And on that note, we start with our next panel discussion of this day, where we are discussing Go Beyond to Grow Beyond. The next panel discussion topic is the role of MFDs over the next decade. As we are targeting the year 2033, let us understand the importance of MFDs in growing the business of mutual fund industry in the next decade. Let me first introduce our panelists to all of you. We are going to have Certified Financial Planner and Senior Assistant Editor Mint, Mr. Jash Kriplani, who is going to be our moderator for this session. Let us welcome him with a big round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now take this opportunity to invite on the stage our first panelist for this discussion. And I would now invite Mr. Anthony Heredia, MD and CEO, Mahindra Manulife Mutual Fund, to kindly join us on the stage. Let us welcome Mr. Anthony with a big round of applause. Following him, I would now request Mr. Kailash Kulkarni, Co-CEO, HSBC Mutual Fund, to kindly join us on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, the applause should not stop. All of us just had lunch, so we have some energy to throw in some applause for our panelists. So let's do that, and let's call on the stage our next panelist, Mr. Mohit Bhatia, CEO, BOI Investment Managers Private Limited. Can we welcome him with a big round of applause? And last but not the least, I would take this opportunity to invite on the stage Mr. Akhil Chaturvedi, CBO, Motilal Oswal AMC, to kindly join us on the stage. I would now hand over the dais to Mr. Jash to take this session forward. So, Jash sir, over to you.
Checking. So we have a task of keeping all of you all engaged after lunch. We are going to try our best. We can maybe start with a straw poll from the guests that we have here on the panel. I would like to ask them, about 3 years back, AMFI came up with a figure saying that mutual fund industry can reach rupees 100 trillion mark by 2030. And, I would like, now we are at 40 trillion. We are still a long way to go, but we are closing in on the halfway mark. I would like to ask them how confident they are that, by 2030 we can reach that mark. We can start with Anthony.
So, in a lighter vein, the power of compounding will anyways take 40 lakhs to 100 lakhs. So I think the debate should be, outside of the power of compounding, is 100 lakh going to become 150? And I say that is something that I'll be pretty confident about. So 100 lakhs is, I think, just the current assets. It's almost like a stock market prediction for 2030 then.
I'll echo what Anthony